look at us. All right, guys, hi, and welcome back to my channel, Wrestling with Books. I didn't realize this Ghostbusters bear would be like staring at you perfectly, but I just kind of wanted to just sit in the living room and just take it easy as I do a bit of a reading wrap-up. So my last video was all about goals and consistency, and then I didn't post for over a week because you know, it's winter time and I was sick, so I think it's quite all right. Oh, my cat is snuggling me. What a good cat. It's quite all right not to post, you know, when you're sick, and to be gentle with ourselves when that happens. So this video is a bit overdue, but here it is. So let's talk about some of the books I've read. It's going to be about a month and a half of books, I guess, or I could just do December's books. We'll see as the conversation gets going. But one of the books I read on audiobook. I had received it from NetGalley, and it is called The Wife Upstairs by Freida McFadden. And this tells the story of a girl who gets a job opportunity from an author to kind of be his wife's caretaker. But this girl, she's not a nurse, you know, she's not anything. What she is in a desperate situation. Sophie is her name. Sophie takes this job, and the author lives in the Hamptons, and I'm from Long Island, and some of the writing of how she spoke about Long Island to me did not ring as if the author was a Long Islander. I don't know for sure because I didn't look into it, but just, I don't know. And the character says he bought a house in Montauk because it's cheaper. It's like, actually not. Like, because, you know, once you get far out, that's where people want to be, like by the beach and so. Anyway, so she takes care of the wife who, you know, now she suffered a stroke and a fall down the stairs, and she can't communicate or speak, and she starts reading the wife's diary and starts to think that things may not be like they seem. But the wife's diary, those were really hard to read because it just was so unrealistic. Like, somebody would not write in a diary the way these scenes were written, so it kind of just took me out of it. But it's, if you like those tropes of, like, I don't know, kind of like a domestic mystery of trying to figure out what the husband is hiding, or is it the wife who's hiding something, and then Sophie is in the middle. So that was kind of like the premise of this story told in audiobook format. That was how I consumed this book. And then the next book I read was Maybe You Should Talk to Someone by Laurie Gottlieb. This I read for my book club that I'm in, just with some people locally. We like to read kind of like self-help books, and this one is about a therapist getting a therapist. And what was fun about this book were some of the examples that she gives throughout it. She has this one patient who, she's a therapist in Hollywood. So this guy is an Emmy Award-winning writer. And even though she changes things so you can't possibly guess who it is, I like spent the whole time trying to guess who it was. You just can't help it. Like, what show does he write on? I even checked Reddit and no one really knows, but people have their guesses. And it was just, you know, there were a lot of really tangible just lessons for life, or being gentle with yourself, or reminders that everybody experiences what you do, even your therapist, so to speak. And there are some really funny coincidences that happen with Laurie, who writes the book, and her therapist, who she ends up seeing, who she calls Wendell. So this is a really easy self-help read. If you're not into like really hokey pokey self-help, then this is the type of title to start with. The next book is more of like a fun book. It's middle grade, and it's part of a series. It's part of the Myrtle Hardcastle series, and it's How to Get Away with Myrtle. This is book 2, and I just found the puns really funny, like for the title, and that's what intrigued me to the Myrtle Hardcastle series by Elizabeth C. Bunce. So I don't know if you'd call this Victorian era or what it's called, but they're like on one of those traveling trains, you know, where you stay there and there's a murder that happens and a stolen tiara, and Myrtle is on the scene to solve it. We get a lot of fun new characters as well as the characters we already know, like Mrs. Judson and Aunt Helena. Myrtle's dad is not in this one as much, but this is just like a really fun series that, even though it's middle grade, it's not at all dumbed down. So if you like a nice mystery, I recommend Myrtle Hardcastle. Myrtle Hardcastle. I mean, come on, you can't beat that name. The next book I read was a NetGalley read, and it's called The Answers Are Within You by Amber Rae. So Amber Rae has a really successful Instagram where she posts a lot of kind of like affirmations or positive posts. So that's how this book was laid out, where it's a lot of it will be like the picture and then, you know, a few paragraphs about it. I read it through an ebook, but I think this book would be excellent as like a coffee table book, or a book that you leave out in like a waiting room, things like that, because it's just, you turn to a page and you get a great kind of boost. It might be also a great book to read where you read one like chapter or a few before bed, or maybe first thing in the morning, that type of book. Because on ebook, I didn't, you know, it's hard to really get the images and appreciate it the same way as I think I would in a physical book. So even though I liked it a lot, it's kind of hard to talk about it when it was an ebook and I can't show you the pictures, so you get it, you get it. Next up, well, this is like a decent amount of reading. This was before I got sick, because, well, I guess we'll see the down when it starts. But the next book I read was Cress, which is book 3 of the Lunar Chronicles. The Lunar Chronicles is a story about a cyborg Cinderella, and then each book introduces you to another main character in the story who is based on another fairy tale. So Scarlet is based on Little Red Riding Hood, and book 3 is Cress, which is based on Rapunzel. I decided to read Cress because I got really jealous that my husband was reading Renegades and I was not, because I finished Renegades. So I started reading Cress and I enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't love the series as much as Renegades, but I still do like it. I like there, with a new character, also kind of came a new romance or intrigue. Like, that's not necessarily like a full-on romance, but it's like a really cool kind of like crush trope, and I loved that. I thought it was really good, and I thought it still propelled the story forward without taking it away by trying to work in a new character. I find with this series, the new characters and stories really weave together nicely with the original story, so it just contributes to it rather than take it away. So if you haven't gotten to check out the Cinder and Lunar series, I think it's one to add to your list. I really do. Maybe I did talk about these books. I don't even know. Because, like, I think I've just talked about them in tags a lot. The next book I read was The Last House on the Street by Diane Chamberlain. I got this one as a Netflix audiobook, and it was fantastic. Great audiobook performance, of course. We have dual narrators and dual timelines in this, and as it starts, you have no idea how these two, you know, are gonna cross paths. So first you start off with Kayla. She is a recent widow and now single mother, and she and her husband had bought the first house and a new development property, and she gets a mysterious visit from an old woman who kind of implies that she should not live there. So that freaked her out. Then we get the other timeline of Ellie, who is living in North Carolina in the 1960s, and she's really active in the civil rights movement. However, she is a white girl and her family does not support her endeavors. So when you start off with those two stories, you do not know how they're gonna align and what's gonna happen, and you just have to keep going, and then you slowly start to go figure things out, and it just goes nowhere you think it's gonna go. And Diane Chamberlain's books, they're all like that. I think she's magnificent. So this is a good one to read and keep you know, keep the intrigue going. I don't know. Next up, I read another Marissa Meyer book. It's just, you know, I've really just, after Renegades, I was like, look, what else you got? I'm ready for it all. And this is her latest, which is called Gilded. It's a take or retelling on Rumpelstiltskin. And, oh boy, I mean, it's definitely has, you know, high fantasy elements, I think. What is the name of the girl? Can't remember her name. Cyrilda. I mean, I read it, I didn't say it, so I'm saying it for the first time now. Cyrilda. So Cyrilda, you know, she's the miller's daughter. And everybody kind of can, in this town or in this world, you get a gift from one of the gods. And she's been given the gift of lies, which is exposed through the gold in her eyes. And like, she has like, almost like these spindles in her eyes that people can see. And she's like bad luck and brings lies and bad luck. So it's very hard for her in the world. And there's this... God, do they call him the Night King? Let's see. The Earl King. The Earl King, who hunts like at every like winter's moon or something. And if you don't, you know, and if you hear him, you could be like captured by him. So that ends up happening, which eventually leads to Cyrilda meeting the Rumpelstiltskin character and what ensues of, let's say, you know, book 1 of Cinder, book 1 of Renegades, and now this. It is probably my least favorite of the 3. I don't mean to compare it to the others, but I just not connecting with it the same. So I'm not sure if I'll read it or not. It was darker for me. It was kind of like a dark fantasy, and she is a very dark character, but you do see some mistakes and promises she's making because, of course, it's Rumpelstiltskin retelling. There is, you know, turning straw into gold and making promises in exchange for that. So you can see, I am intrigued to see where I know the mistakes she made and the promises she made are going to come to haunt her. So that's where I may continue on with the book. So I'm wondering if anyone else has read this book yet or not. I don't feel like I've heard a lot of people talking about it. The next book, another NetGalley read, was Murder on the Lusitania. And this was so much fun because it takes place on an ocean liner. So it has a lot of, you know, those feels of almost like, you know, being on the Titanic and whatnot. But you don't get the tragic ending, which, you know, is awkward to say. But it's, you know, kind of like an ensemble mystery. So you have all these people that you're meeting and you don't know who it's going to be. And you follow the character of George Dillman, who I really liked. And you meet all these other people. And then, you know, kind of someone gets murdered and you want to figure it out. So the setting of this book is what I really enjoyed the most. So if you kind of like that ocean liner setting and that period, then I would recommend this book. Oh, there's some noise, some activity outside. And then the next book I read in December was Never Tell a Lie by Gail Schimel. And this, you know, the synopsis had read a bit more thriller feeling to me, but this was more of a light women's fiction, I found. It tells the story of, gosh, I never remember these names, guys. Mary Wilson. Okay, so her life takes a turn right after her 20th high school reunion, and she befriends someone who she didn't really interact with much in high school, and just so much changes as a result of just this reunion, where she kind of gets a new romance, she gets this new best friend, and this best friend kind of brings her into where she doesn't know if it's truth or lies or what. She doesn't know who to believe, and You know how a friend can really bring you into their drama? That's what's happening here. And she doesn't know. It's a he said, she said. She doesn't know who to believe. I was expecting more of a thriller and less of a chick-litty feel. So this book didn't really hit the mark for me. But if you want something that's thriller-esque, but really light, then maybe this could work. Maybe. You know, I guess like this was, you know, I'm not doing my usual where I'm having my coffee and I'm changing settings, so I don't want to drag on too more. So I'm just gonna leave it with those, with the December books, and we can save the January, you know, and what I'm reading this month for later, and when I'm feeling better, maybe less stuffed, you know, and when I'm not wearing a big red puffy vest, because I don't know, it's like in the way. It's like in the way. I will show you Buster. Oh, look at that. Look at that rump. Could you say no to that? I can't. I say yes to it. Say yes to it. So that was my reading update. That was like a direct reading update. It was just, you know, I'm getting back into talking, I guess, on YouTube. For me, not to YouTube for either channel for, like 2 weeks is a huge deal. So it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal for me, not YouTube for 2 weeks. It's been so hard to be sick and not YouTube. You have no idea. No, I've been watching a lot of Selling Sunset, so I like to talk like that now. Right, Buster? I pretend Buster's a little dog that I can bring everywhere, and it's really nice. So that's what's been happening here. Hopefully we'll get back into our schedule again soon. I'll be back to posting as I feel better here on Wrestling with Books and on my other channel, Wrestling with Disney. I do have some other videos you can check out, including my 2022 goals and year in review, which I will put up a link to. So I hope you guys have a great day. Sorry, I'm staring at the cat as he reaches for his papa's hand. Will the hands touch?
They did before.
They did before? Can you reach?
He had his nails out.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Look at those. He's ready to attack.
He does claws out.
You think he's cute, but let me tell you, he's vicious. Thank you for watching Wrestling with Books.